The rain hadn't stopped for hours. It poured down in endless silver sheets, turning the small suburban neighborhood into a blur of wet concrete and trembling light. Inside a quiet house, the air was thick with the sound of silence, the kind that presses against the chest, refusing to let go. Ethan stood in his living room, staring at the door as if something inside him already knew what was coming. And then, it happened, a soft knock, hesitant but desperate. When he opened the door, there she was, Emily. Soaked from the rain, clutching the same brown leather bag she'd carried the night she left 2 years ago. But this time, her eyes told a different story. They were swollen, red, filled with a sorrow that went beyond words. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and the beauty of second chances, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to our channel. Sometimes, the smallest gestures of compassion can change someone's entire world. Ethan froze. The sight of her pulled him backward in time, to that night when the rain was just as heavy, when her tears had mixed with it as she whispered goodbye. Back then, he'd been too proud to stop her, too hurt to understand why she was leaving. They were young, stubborn, and both scarred in ways that made love feel like a battle. She'd walked away with promises of finding herself, leaving him standing in the doorway of this same house, holding pieces of a heart she'd broken without realizing it. And now, 2 years later, she had returned, not as the girl who left, but as a woman who had seen what it truly meant to lose everything. Ethan's voice trembled as he asked her to come inside. She hesitated, glancing at the warm light spilling from the living room. It felt too safe, too familiar, and yet too far from the chaos she'd been living in. When she finally stepped in, water dripped from her hair onto the wooden floor. She clutched her bag tighter, as if it was the only thing holding her together. Inside that old bag were remnants of her past life, a worn-out photo of them from their first trip to the coast, a bracelet he'd given her, and a letter she'd never had the courage to send. The living room looked almost the same. The couch, the framed picture on the wall, the small lamp that always made the space glow softly, everything was there, except for the feeling of home she used to know. Emily's chest tightened as her eyes met Ethan's. There was no anger in his face, just quiet disbelief and an ache that time hadn't healed. 2 years ago, Emily had chased freedom, or at least what she thought freedom was. She'd wanted to escape the suffocating predictability of small-town life. She thought love was something that held her back, something that demanded more of her than she could give. So she left. Moved to New York with dreams of becoming a photographer, only to discover that not all dreams lead to happiness. The city had swallowed her whole, the noise, the rush, the loneliness. She'd fallen in love again, or what she thought was love, only to be left with nothing but betrayal and bruised trust. When it all fell apart, she found herself staring at that old brown bag in her closet, realizing it was the only thing she had left that felt real. And inside it, she found a photograph of Ethan smiling at her, the same smile she used to take for granted. That's when she knew she had to come back. As she stood there, trembling, Ethan motioned for her to sit. The warmth of the house felt foreign against her cold skin. She wanted to speak, to apologize, to explain everything that had broken inside her. But the words stuck in her throat. Ethan simply watched, his heart caught between resentment and compassion. He had spent 2 years rebuilding himself, learning to live again, focusing on his work, pretending he didn't think about her when he passed the coffee shop where they used to meet. Yet seeing her now, broken and lost, shattered all those walls in an instant. She finally whispered, "I didn't come here expecting forgiveness." Her voice cracked as tears streamed down her cheeks. "I just needed to say, I'm sorry. For leaving. For not understanding what I had until it was gone." Ethan didn't answer right away. He could feel the anger he'd buried deep inside, but it didn't rise to the surface. Instead, there was a strange calm, a sense of peace that came with knowing that sometimes love doesn't end. It just waits quietly until both hearts are ready again. As the evening passed, they sat across from each other, the rain continuing its steady rhythm outside. She told him about the city, the loneliness, the mistakes, the man who promised her forever but left her in pieces. She spoke about the nights she'd walked the streets, staring at couples laughing under umbrellas, and how she'd always end up crying because she realized she had walked away from the one person who truly loved her. Ethan listened. Every word felt like a knife and a bomb at the same time. He could see the pain in her eyes, the regret in her trembling hands. And in that moment, he understood something. Forgiveness wasn't about forgetting the past. It was about acknowledging the pain and choosing to move beyond it. When she finally stopped talking, silence settled between them again. Ethan leaned back, exhaling slowly. "Emily," he said softly, "you broke me once. But maybe we were both too young to know what love really meant." She nodded, unable to speak, afraid that even a single word might break the fragile peace forming in the room. Hours passed, and yet neither of them wanted the night to end. The storm outside began to fade, leaving behind a calm drizzle. Emily's eyes wandered to the window, watching as the first faint glow of dawn began to touch the horizon. It felt symbolic, as if a new beginning was trying to break through the ruins of their past. Ethan stood and walked toward her. She flinched slightly, still carrying the fear of rejection, but he only handed her a blanket. "You can stay here tonight," he said quietly. "The rain's not letting up, and you look exhausted." For a moment, she thought she'd imagined his kindness. But when she looked up and saw his gentle expression, she felt her heart crack open again, not from pain this time, but from hope. That night, Emily lay on the same couch where they had once watched countless sunsets together. She couldn't sleep. Every corner of the room whispered memories, laughter, arguments, the sound of rain on the windows. She thought about how love isn't always a straight line. Sometimes it breaks, falls apart, and then finds its way back in unexpected ways. She realized that forgiveness wasn't something you beg for, it's something you prove through change, patience, and time. The next morning, Ethan woke up early. The smell of coffee filled the air, and when Emily walked into the kitchen, she froze. On the counter sat 2 mugs, just like old times. For the first time in years, she smiled, a small, fragile smile that carried all her unspoken gratitude. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, without forcing it, they began to talk again. They took walks in the park, shared stories they'd never told before, and learned to listen, really listen. Emily found a small photography job at a local studio, while Ethan helped her settle back into town. It wasn't easy. There were still moments when the past crept in, reminding them of the pain. But this time, they faced it together. One evening, as they stood on the porch watching the sunset, Emily turned to him. "You should hate me," she said quietly. Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe I did," he replied, "but love doesn't disappear, Emily. It changes shape, but it's always there. Waiting for us to find it again." She looked away, tears gathering in her eyes. "I don't deserve this," she whispered. "Maybe not," he said, "but sometimes, we get second chances not because we deserve them, but because we finally understand their worth." And in that moment, as the sky turned shades of gold and pink, she knew that this quiet forgiveness, this unexpected grace, was the kind of love she had been searching for all along. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, comment, and share this video. Let's spread love, empathy, and hope, because you never know who might need it right now. Before you go, tell us in the comments, do you believe that people deserve a second chance if they truly regret what they did? As the final scene fades, Emily looks at Ethan, holding that same old brown bag, the one she once carried out of his life. But now, it no longer holds the weight of her mistakes. It holds a single photograph of them, newly taken, smiling in the soft morning light. Sometimes, love doesn't end when someone leaves. Sometimes, it begins when they finally come home.